Well, here I am. It's about 3:30 in the morning on a Friday. What is this? July the 26th, I believe. Can you believe this year is just flying by? It's unbelievable. So I got to get some work done, but I wanted to share my thoughts this morning about Joe Biden. I'm tired of talking about Joe Biden, but I don't guess we'll have to do that much longer. But I was thinking last evening before I went to bed about how I really feel about Joe Biden and what I really think about Joe Biden. And I want to share those thoughts with you this morning, if you will indulge me. By the way, I'm hooking up later on this morning, and I'm going to haul my camper over to do some picnicking with my grandkids and my kids. We have a big event this weekend. My new baby grandson, James, is getting baptized this Sunday, so I'm going to go there and be there for that. So I'll be excited to share some pictures with you of all my brood over there in Georgia. So I'm excited about that. What about Joe Biden? We know where things stand right now, of course. As we talked this morning, the undemocratic Democratic Party is basically just acclaiming Kamala Harris as the anointed one in a most undemocratic fashion. I think from all I read and hear, there's a lot of rumblings within the liberal wing of America that, some people aren't so crazy about this. Before I get to Biden, let me mention one more thing. You will notice that within hours of Biden giving his full-throated endorsement of Kamala Harris being his successor, she was also endorsed by the Clintons and Schumer and Pelosi and all the powers that be in the Democratic Party, governors, senators, what have you. All of them, for the most part, were getting in line like the dutiful sheep they are and throwing their endorsement toward Kamala Harris. But did you notice who did not endorse Kamala Harris? That would be the one, of course. That would be Barack Hussein Obama has not endorsed Kamala Harris. And the word I'm getting, the word I'm reading, and the word I'm hearing is the Obamas have no great affection for Kamala Harris. Kamala, whatever. I'll say whatever comes to mind. What I'm hearing is that the Obamas actually wanted to throw the thing open, as it should be, so that they could select a new candidate. I believe they wanted Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. The thinking is, in Obama's world, is that Harris cannot beat Trump. And I believe he's right about that. Setting aside the prospect of voter fraud, which of course is going to be in place, I don't think there's any way that Kamala Harris, who was routinely rated as the most liberal senator in the U.S. Senator, can possibly prevail against Trump when it comes to the issues. She's a train wreck, folks, and I don't think there's any way she could possibly, in a reasonably sane world, could prevail against Donald Trump. And I believe Obama knows that, and I think that's why he did not want Kamala Harris to be the nominee. The way it should work is that it should be an open convention, and all the delegates should be released from the fold of Biden to support whoever they choose. But apparently that's not going to be the case. It's making for a little drama in Chicago next month, and I relish that. I hope that's what happens. We shall see. Now, on to Biden. I was ruminating over this last evening, and I want to make something very clear about Joe Biden. Folks, I do not take joy in the suffering of any human being, and I mean that. I don't take any delight in the obvious condition, medical condition, that this elderly man is going through. It doesn't bring me any joy or happiness to see him in his medical state, his diminished medical state. There's nothing that should make anybody happy about that. Just a little personal note, if you'll indulge me for a moment. My father was a wonderful man. He was the hardest working man you would ever meet. With apologies to James Brown, he had nothing on my dad. My father's name was Frank, and he was raised in utter poverty on a farm. He worked in the dirt from the time he could walk. He was a hard-working man. He served his country in World War II in France and Germany. Upon his death, we learned that he had earned a Purple Heart. We never knew it. He was an honorable man, and he met my mother when he was coming home from the war at a train station. And they got together and they married and had 3 sons, 3 really good-looking sons, and they just got better looking the more they had. My father came back home and went to work, and his trade was being an auto mechanic. And eventually he opened up his own repair shop, and he did very well. He worked really hard again. He had several employees, and he made a good living. We weren't wealthy people, but we weren't impoverished. I always had clothes for school, never missed a meal. Always had a roof over my head, a warm home, food, all the necessities I never wanted for anything as a child growing up. I had the most wonderful mother you could ever meet. She was the classic Southern belle who could cook like anybody's business. But she and my father made a good home that he built with his own hands in the 1940s. And they were just good, salt-of-the-earth people from Georgia. My father lived to the age of 90. He lived a good long life. He passed away back in 2012. And I remember my brother, who you met a few videos ago, my brother Danny, he was telling me a story about how he and my father were traveling on an interstate one day to go and look at some property that my dad owned. And on the interstate, they passed a semi, a tractor trailer. And my brother Danny was driving, and he said, my father said, "Look at that." Now he's in his late 80s, and look at that. And Danny said to my dad, "What are you looking at?" And he said, "Look at that truck over there." He was pointing at the semi. And Danny said, "What about it?" And my dad said, "How many wheels are on that thing?" And Danny said, 18, Dad. It's an 18-wheeler. And my dad said, "How long have they been putting that many wheels on these things?" And that's when my brother Danny said, under his breath, "Uh-oh." And that was the first indication we had that there was a problem. Now, my dad's medical state began to deteriorate, and we had to place him eventually in assisted living. And the older he got, of course, the more medical issues that he had, and he got a touch of Alzheimer's, and finally passed away at the ripe old age of 90. So he had a good long life, but it was a very sad thing to see when you would visit with him, and sometimes he wouldn't know who his own children were. That's very sad. My mother had passed away in 1989 at the age of 64. Not to get sidetracked, but bear with me, if you will. I'm 63. My mother outlived me so far by about a year, and she died rather suddenly from a very rare disease that you may have heard of called Legionnaire's disease. It was just a terrible thing. And I won't go into it. You can look that up if you don't know what that is. And it was devastating to all of us, but particularly to my father. But he recovered and went on to live for several more years, as I said, and passed away at the age of 90. But it was very sad as he was transitioned from assisted living into, nursing home and other facilities. But it was very sad to see him in this medical state. I don't take joy or delight in anyone's suffering, folks. I want to make that clear. And that includes Joe Biden. So when I talk about him on my channel, I like to talk in terms of politics and matters of policy and, political doctrines and what have you. But I don't take joy in his suffering. What makes this situation rather unique, and you can't get away from this, is the fact that this man ostensibly has his withering hands on the button, if you will, in his diminished mental capacity with all of his obvious cognitive issues. He is charged with the safety and security of hundreds of millions of people, and that pisses me off because this should not be the case. It seems to me that the first duty of any president or any leader of any country would be to secure the safety of his or her citizens, so that we can all go about our lives and live the way that we see fit without having to worry about the threat of war looming over us. But that isn't the case in America today, thanks to Joe Biden. So his medical condition set aside, we are all in danger because we have a man who has obvious cognitive issues in control or in charge of our safety and security. And that is the biggest problem we face in America right now. More so than political philosophy or doctrines or theories or policies or what have you, this man is in charge of our safety and our security. And safe and secure is the last thing we are with Joe Biden in the White House. And what really angers me are the people around him who have known for years that he is in this diminished mental state. And yet because they lust and crave power so much, they have no problem putting all of us in potential peril. That's what angers me. This should not be the case. He should have never assumed the office of the presidency in the first place, if only for the reasons I'm stating. So that makes this situation unique. It's not just that he's so wrong on so many things. It is that he is in charge of our safety and security while he is in this weakened condition. He is utterly incoherent. You saw him at the debate. You probably saw him when he was giving his speech from the Oval Office about leaving early, at least leaving the nomination process. As I told you earlier, he's not going to make it till January. I absolutely feel certain about that. Nor should he. Nor should he be in this office. That's what angers me. What angers me are these Democrats who are fine with propping him up. Now, I'm under no illusions here. I get it. He doesn't know what's going on, and he's not really running things. I get that. I get the fact that there are people around him that you don't know and I don't know. All we know are names. But there are people who around him who are actually running things. There are people around him who put papers on his desk and say, sign here. I get that. But constitutionally, he is in charge. And this should not be the case. So that's what I want to make clear, is that while I have no joy at seeing his suffering on the one hand, I have a lot of anger, and you should too as well, particularly if you're an American, because of the fact that he is in a position he should not be in. He has no business being in this whatsoever. Now, fact of the matter, when it comes to Obama, Biden, well, it applies to Obama as well. I have called him on my channel a pathological liar, and he is. I feel no pity for him in that regard because he has, before all of his medical issues came to light, that's who he always has been. He's always been this way. He's always been a liar. He's always been a con man. He's still a liar. He's still a con man. And now he's a liar and a con man with some sort of, call it Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, whatever it is. I think it's probably been diagnosed and we just haven't been enlightened. Joe Biden will leave office and he will retire to his home in one of his homes in Delaware or wherever, and he'll live off his ill-gotten means for the rest of his life. And I will take pity on him from a human standpoint. But from a presidential standpoint, I have no tolerance for this. It's utterly ridiculous. It is unacceptable. Never take joy in the suffering of a human being. I do not, and you shouldn't either, because we all, at the end of the day, are made in the image of God. And we are all fragile, vulnerable human beings that God loves. God loves all of us. I will absolutely say that. And we should not joy in anyone's sufferings, but we will rejoice the day that he leaves office. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. So share them down below if you would, please. I would appreciate that. Please like this video and give it a big thumbs up. And I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the old Triple T channel. Take special note and make sure you are subscribed. I am hearing that some people are just becoming unsubscribed for whatever reason, some sort of glitch in the system, I guess. I don't know. Make sure you're subscribed if you will. I would appreciate this. This is Trailer Trash Tim. Go out there and have a great day, and I'll see you soon.